Okay guys, welcome to the first of a video series. Now this is a video series that I'd like to put together as more of like educational content. So for me myself, I'm a Diamond Wild Rift player. I posted a post to Reddit saying that I'd review people's gameplay and just try and give some general feedback, tips, anything to try and help people climb. The things I'm going to focus on mostly will be things like champion knowledge, mechanics, decision making, matchup knowledge, all the rest of these types of things. So for the first episode, we have this Kaiser player here. This Kaiser is in Gold 1 Elo, playing on presumably EU West. Says that it's around about Gold to Platinum Elo, so I imagine that, this is probably the primary target audience that a lot of you guys are probably stuck at. So anyway, the first thing I like to do when I'm in a loading screen is just to go through the team comps, because that gives me a general understanding of how it is I want to play out the game, how it is I want to approach my lane, etc. Because there's all sorts of things you have to think about. For example, there's certain types, there's certain kind of aggressive trades you can take in lane depending on your jungler, the enemy jungler, the type of lane you're against, whether you're against like a scaling lane or whether you're against like an all-in lane with Ignite. You've got to think about all these things because all of these different factors do influence your game plan. They're the type of things that you should have to think about when you're trying to climb. Okay, so what do we have here? So we got a Kai'Sa, Nasus, a Seraphine, a Kali, and Jax. So for our player here, playing Kai'Sa, he's paired with Seraphine. It's a very, it's a pretty strong 2v2 lane. It has lots of push, but they're against a Misfortune and a Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank can be a bit scary for Seraphine in the sense that, if Seraphine's positioning isn't quite perfect, then there's always the chance that she can get hooked. But if the Seraphine is playing correctly and the Kai'Sa is playing correctly, then it should be very difficult for Blitzcrank to get a hook because Seraphine has a very strong slow and she's also a very powerful pushing champion. Kai'Sa, again, not the best laner. She needs time to scale. She really needs 2 or 3 items so she can unlock the passives on her abilities, start getting lots of attack speed, that kind of thing. But that being said, you're against an Amumu. Now, Amumu's a reasonable ganker, but he's not what's considered a strong jungler. His ganks are very simple, they're very easy to predict. His skill shots are very easy to dodge. Like, yes, he's powerful once he gets to level 6, but I would generally consider this a pretty easy lane. So, even though Blitzcrank has Ignite, you two have a very strong pushing lane. MF's a strong laner, Blitzcrank is a bit scary, but because it's 2 ranged champions into a melee and a ranged champion, you guys actually have very strong push. Now, if you push the enemy under the tower, it gives you free opportunity to harass, and it kind of denies the enemy a chance from having a laning phase. So the type of things I'd be thinking about going into this game are, okay, if I'm communicating with the Seraphine, I'd say we should try and push wherever possible and harass Blitzcrank under tower. If Blitzcrank tries to come forwards for a hook, you can either just disengage, or you can just slow the Blitzcrank, ignite, not ignite. You can slow the Blitzcrank, do a trade, try and harass him. It should be very difficult if played by, if this was played in Korean Challenger, it should be very difficult for the Blitzcrank to do anything in this lane. Even in Misfortune, of course, is probably the strongest laner in the patch right now. But anyway, let's go into the game. But to be honest, both of these team comps look fine. I'm not too fond of the Teemo on the enemy team. I don't really feel like Teemo does too much. The meta right now is very much around early and mid game fighting to try and secure early dragons. I don't feel like Teemo really offers anything to a team fight. Like, he's a decent split pusher. He's a bit annoying, but he's pretty vulnerable. I don't think he's a very good champion, although he is a pretty good pick into Nasus. Starting with a longsword, that's very standard. Double heal, one thing I mentioned, sorry guys, the AD and the support in this game have both gone heal. So the downside of heal is that after casting it for a certain period of time, I think it's maybe a couple of minutes, although I'm not really sure in Wild Rift exactly. The issue with heal is it gives you a debuff after you use it. So if a person wishes to use heal again, for example, your lane partner, the second heal will have a 50% effectiveness. So it's almost like you're giving yourself grievous wounds for a few minutes. So where possible, it's not particularly efficient to go double heal. Yes, there are situations where actually if you take a bad trade at level 2, level 3, the support can just spam heal just to keep you in lane for longer. That's not a bad strategy, particularly since heal's on a pretty short cooldown. But double heal, generally speaking, it's not a good idea. It's better for you to go barrier. and for the AD, for the support to go heal. But I think in this matchup, personally, I would go Ignite on Seraphine. Blitzcrank going for an invade, pretty standard. But you guys don't have a particularly good comp at punishing him at level 1, and of course, you know, Seraphine with a standard Q, standard first ability. Oop. Okay. Double kill in the bot lane there. Or should I say Baron lane? Okay, be careful standing so close to minions because you're just like, yeah, exactly that. Yeah, you're just lining up for a misfortune double up. Seraphine gets hooked and has to flash. Obviously, that's kind of bad. Okay. Now, one bad thing I'm seeing here is you're letting these guys get the push. So, the problem here is Blitzcrank is a melee champion. Blitzcrank can't push the lane very quickly. Misfortune can. In fact, you know, Misfortune can auto-attack things. You know, she can push the lane quite quickly. But the downside of pushing is that, you know, for you, if you're getting pushed in, you can't really fight back with the enemy because they'll have more minions than you will. So if you were to start a fight, you know, they have more minions to attack you during a fight than you have to attack them. So in an even fight, if they've got more minions, chances are they definitely will win the fight. And it's only made worse by the fact that both you guys are level 1 currently. So letting yourself get pushed in is generally not a good idea unless you have no choice in the matchup. In this matchup, you guys actually have priority. Seraphine has very strong push. Kai'Sa, you know, reasonable push with her first ability at level 1. You guys should be looking to push in this lane. And if you push, not only do you deny MF the chance to hit a double up, which is a very powerful ability, you also limit the opportunities where Blitzcrank can try and get a hook. You know, because the lane's not in a neutral state, he has to stay behind the minions. Otherwise, you know, if he attacks you and he takes minion aggro, he'll basically just lose a trade. So you have to take advantage of every possible window you can get within a matchup. Generally speaking, if you're playing ranged into melee, you have to abuse this. You have to take every advantage you can if you want to maximize your chances of gaining a gold lead and winning the game. And as you can see here, you know, I don't need to explain too much, but standing in the minions like this just increases the chance that you'll just be hit by a double up. So, yeah, so taking a lot of auto attack damage here. If you want to avoid being hit by double ups, just stand to the side of minions, but preferably on the opposite side to Blitzcrank, because obviously if you're stood on the same side of the lane as he is, he just gets a free hook. Okay, I got hit by another double up. Again, okay, no, you basically have to back now. You should back immediately. So if you back right now, you'll come to the lane and the wave will just push into you so that you won't miss too many minions. But if you stay now, you just run the risk of dying. Like, you've already burnt 2 heals, so you really should back right now. This is very dangerous. Blitzcrank just has to flash hook and then one of you is going to die. Okay, Blitzcrank. Oh, yeah, there it is. See? Okay. So like I said, I could predict this happening 30 seconds ago. You know, if both of you have used your heal and you're on like 25% life, there's just no point in staying. At the exact time at which you went to 25% health, the wave state was in around the center of the lane. I think MF had a cannon minion, but you got to think, if I recall right now, the thing you have to think to yourself is, am I going to lose anything? Now, most gold in Wild Rift actually comes from minions, unless of course you have 20 kills. The majority of your gold, and of course your experience, which gives you levels, is going to come from minions. So backing at a time at which you lose lots of minions is obviously bad, because not only do you miss experience, you also miss lots of gold, and your lane opponent will get this gold because, you know, they're pushing, so they don't lose any minions. But the thing you've got to think about there is, you took a lot of damage. You can back here without losing any minions because the wave would very slowly push in. If you had, let's say, 2 waves pushing into tower, then yes, you have to stay because, you know, you can't risk missing out on 2 waves of minions. But here, you would have enough time to go back, heal, maybe buy an item, some boots or a dagger or some long swords or something, and then come back to lane, probably just at the same amount of time where the wave is crashing into you. However, if you wait around in the lane, not only does it mean you have to stay because you have to collect the minions before they go into your tower, you also run the risk of being dived by the enemy jungler. So, as the wave comes into your tower, one thing that could happen, a Moo comes in, he hits a bandage toss, he gets a double kill, and then, just like that, the lane could be over because you would also lose all the minions that are on the tower. So when lanes are going bad, you just have to kind of assess in your mind the potential for risk. What can go wrong in this situation? What's the best optimal position for me? And in this exact optimal position, the best thing to do is just to go back. Like, yes, your jungler is appearing right now, but, realistically, you guys can't start a fight. You've got no heal. I think they still have their summoners. Yeah, you can see MF still has heal and flash. Blitzcrank has flash. So even your jungler coming here, like, yes, you might burn some summoners, but I think based off the HP that you guys have, it's not really feasible to think that you would actually be able to join the fight. So backing in that situation is definitely best. And of course, dying, like what just happened here, is the worst case scenario. Because even if Blitzcrank gets the kill, you still miss out on all this golden experience. So that's obviously a very big deal. Okay, Nasus dies bot lane. It's a bit scary. But let's see. Okay, this game's not looking too great. Mid lane dies, top lane dies. It's up to you, man. Gotta carry this one. Now what you want to do here is you want to auto-attack these minions to push them into the tower, otherwise the lane is just going to freeze outside of MF's tower like it is now, and because the minion wave is frozen in that position, it's very dangerous for you to walk up and CS, especially since you don't have a flash, because you just burnt it. Now, that is why MF is a pretty strong champion. Like, the hitbox on that ability is so stupid. Okay, just try and CS what you can here. Just get whatever minions, Make sure you don't miss out on anything. Try not to get hooked. You can last hit with your second ability. You could use the second ability on the cannon there. Okay, Blitz... okay, yeah, I'm not really sure what's happening there. Just try and last hit where possible. You can't really fight right now. Even if MF's used ult and Blitzcrank, Blitzcrank might be low on mana, you guys still can't fight right now because you don't have Seraphine Ultimate. So your game plan right now should just be to try and farm, look for mistakes. People at this rating, in fact people at all ratings, do make a lot of mistakes. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the risk of not having flash. You really got to be careful when you don't have flash against Blitzcrank because that can happen at any point. Remember, Blitzcrank has flash, so at any moment he could just flash hook and then, that's another death. Okay, Seraphine's playing more confident now, which is good because MF is out of mana. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Akali missed a free shuriken. Yeah, just a word of advice for any of you guys playing Akali. If you miss abilities, just don't play Akali. Just play something simpler. That would be my advice. Sorry about your personal notification. Okay, it might look appealing to go and get Dragon right now, but you gotta be careful because nobody knows where Moo is. You don't want to risk a steal. This Jax is going for Dragon, but you should be pinging him away at this point. It's really risky. A Moo or MF could be anywhere. And of course, now another thing to notice. You saw that Ahri was pushing in mid lane, right? She was getting some plates. She was doing some damage to the mid lane tower. Ahri's no longer in vision. So we can assume, particularly because we don't have any vision of mid lane because the wave's being pushed in, that both Ahri, Misfortune, and Amumu could join this dragon fight here at any moment. Now, I don't know if when you were in this game, you were actually panning your camera over to where the dragon fight is, but let's assume that you are. This is too risky. Your mid laner can't join the fight. You realistically can't do much in this fight because you're on 50% HP. Yes, your flash is, almost up, perhaps up. But the problem is, this gives Amumu a perfect opportunity for a steal. If without knowing where he is, it's very risky. If a Mumu gets one big ult off, you can do a lot of damage and not only take the dragon, but potentially get a triple kill, you know, or you can set up kills with Ari. Mumu and Ari have lots of crowd control, you know, they have lots of abilities which can stun, charm, etc., all these things. They have lots of abilities which can disable your team. Like, yes, Seraphine has her ultimate, but I don't think that's going to make up for the power of a Mumu and Ari, particularly because, you know, they have the initiative in the sense that you don't know where they are. They could have vision in that Baron. You know, I haven't seen anybody sweep it. In fact, if you look at your team there, nobody's bought a sweeper. So, you know, the vision clearance on this Baron is obviously non-existent. You know, nobody knows if there's any wards there. And furthermore, we can see from the map that nobody knows where a Mumu is. So this is very risky. Like, you're already behind in lane, so what you should be looking to do here is ping your team away and just say, okay, guys, this is too risky. We just need to wait until we get vision. See a Mumu's there waiting, just like I said he would. He wants that dragon. Okay. Attacking MF. Yeah, you can't win this fight. You just don't have the health advantage. MF misses a double up. Yeah, see, exactly. So, you know, as a result of this fight, the enemy gets the dragon, and the enemy gets, the enemy gets a double kill. This is the worst case scenario. It all happens like clockwork. Like I said, just, you know, you can see these things in your own games. So just like how I pointed these things out, right, you can always predict what's going to happen like 30 seconds in advance if you just look a little bit. So it was obvious that a Mumu was going to appear there. It was obvious that Ari was going to be there. We saw Ari in mid lane pushing. We know a Mumu was going to want to keep an eye on the dragon. We have no way of checking whether there was actually any wards placed. So there's just no reason to take this right now. You know, generally speaking, that you should only try and take an objective, one, if you have full vision of where the enemy jungler is, to, you know, to combat any steals. It doesn't matter if the jungler is dead. Or second, if you're confident that you're very far ahead, so that even if the enemy jungler joins, you can start a fight. But, you know, at the moment, you guys are both behind, and you don't have vision, so there's absolutely no reason to get this dragon right now. I know it's not your fault, but, like, if I was you, I'd be pinging my team away, saying, no, too risky. It's not worth it. So now you guys, you know, you guys lose mid tower. So this is how games can snowball out. This is how games can snowball out of control. Just because, you know, small mistakes all add up, kills here and there, objectives lost, and then before you know it, the game snowballs out of control. And the higher up you go, the faster this happens. Small mistakes get blown apart so quickly. But just remember now, your game plan should be farm, get all the minions you can, and just look for mistakes. Wait for somebody to burn a flash, or stay in lane with low mana, or wait for, like, you know, a person to make a very big mechanical mistake, missing an ability, etc. Okay. I think you guys can play a bit further forward. Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, it's a shame that didn't hit because, you know, with Seraphine having ulti here, you guys can do a lot of damage. And even if you don't kill Miss Fortune, you can force it back, and that'll give you maybe two plates on the tower. In fact, it might even let you take the tower if you're very lucky. Okay, so you know the jungler's bot lane, and you know that Miss Fortune's gone back to base, so you don't need to be too safe here. You know, both you and Seraphine can walk up and try and take some plates. Or, if you want, since the lane's pushed in, it might be better just to go out and take some vision. See, this is what you don't want to do. So, the issue there was you guys are stood around in the middle of the lane, despite the fact that there was no minions and there was no real intention. You know, there's no real purpose to being in the middle of the lane there. No minions to hit, no champions to hit. Generally speaking, if your wave is pushed in, you should do one of a few things. You should either take the tower, where possible, or deal damage to the tower. Or you can, you know, go and take objectives. You can go and ward the enemy jungle, like I say. From what you can see here, you know, you've got one ward in the bush, but there isn't any wards in the jungle there. So, you know, a Mumu's not going to be there, but you should get wards on, like, the Scuttle Crab. Securing the Scuttle Crab if you can, because, you know, the Scuttle Crab gives vision. It gives, like, quite a lot of gold, and it also gives you guys a bit of regen. So you should always try and make your time as efficient as possible, especially when playing an AD carry. Like, your game plan as an AD carry should be farm more, die less, okay? When you're not farming, you should be finding ways to either get gold or in some way, you know, be in some way useful for your team. You can go down and check if the Scuttle Crab's up and take the Scuttle Crab. If it's not, you know, you can place vision in the river, or depending on the situation, perhaps in the enemy jungle. Then go back to lane and catch the minions, you know, push it into tower again. and then either harass you can either harass the tower, you know, you can try and do a bit of tower damage and get a turret plate, but you always want to make sure you're trying to do something. Never just be stood around kind of waiting for something to happen. There's always a way of maximizing your potential in this game. So generally speaking, as an AD carry, you know, in the mid game, you want to just be looking at side lanes to try and get farm. You want to group for objectives. There's no point in fighting in the jungle for no reason. You should always just try and join your team if they're securing like a dragon or anything like that. Depending, of course, on the game state, you know, because there's always a chance that a fight can break out. But we'll continue. Okay, so with Seraphine dead, you can just give up this tower. I don't think you can defend that. I don't even think Uzi could defend this right now. Okay, you gotta be careful here. You might have... Okay, it seems we're having a bit of camera trouble right now. Fair enough. Well, Nasus is on a killing spree. You know, that's some win condition. That champion is pretty strong in the late game, even if he gets a bit countered by Teemo's blind. Okay, so this game's getting a little bit out of control now. You've lost all 3 outer towers in obviously every lane. Rift Herald's coming into the bot lane there. I should say the Baron lane. You know, this might even get the second tier 2 turret. I think at this particular stage you should have gone to help out your team in Baron lane there. Because, you know, this MF isn't going to push the tower very quickly. However, you've got several members coming into your Baron lane. You know, the Rift Herald was still up. It's possible that you could look for a pick. You know, maybe you get a kill or a double kill, and then before you know it, you're back in the game. Like I say, you also have to take the best decision in terms of... You have to think to yourself, what's the greatest chance I have of gaining as much gold as possible to, you know, to carry my team in the late game or the mid game. In that position there, you had lots of people pushing into the Baron lane, so it would have been it would have been more beneficial for you. You would have had a much greater chance of securing some gold if you just went to the Baron lane and tried to see what you could do with your team. You know, maybe Nasus gets a slow and then you can use your ultimate to get in, do a bit of damage, because that's how you want to play Kai'Sa generally. When you play Kai'Sa, you know, she's not quite like Jinx where you can just sit at the outside with long range and spam people. You have to look for your opportunity to dive in the back line with your ultimate, you know. Do a bit of damage, perhaps get a kill, and use your invisibility to reposition to a better safe place. And then proceed the fight normally. So it looks like got a bit of a fight in mid lane. Now the most important dragon is currently alive, so you guys don't want to do anything that's too risky, you know, no pointless fights, because it just gives the dragon over at the enemy team. This dragon gives an 8% damage buff to everybody, which is incredibly powerful in this game. While it might seem very small, the important thing to remember... Oh my goodness. Okay, that was lucky. 8% damage on every member, right? You know, that assumes that if both people... If you're fighting against a team which has equal gold as you, and you have an 8% damage buff, the chances are you'll just win that fight. So, you know, the dragon is actually very powerful, unless you're extremely far behind. Okay, well, you know. Hopefully this camera corrects itself in the next few minutes, otherwise this recording is not going to be the best in terms of production. That's the way I would say it.
Middle turret is under attack.
Okay, and you can see, actually, you can see how having all of your towers been taken, you know, the outer towers here, this gives the enemy so much opportunity to exert pressure. You know, they're all barreling down mid lane, and all you guys can do is try and group and look for an opportunity to, you know, to respond to any mistakes. But it gives these guys full autonomy.
Ally slain. Enemy slain. Double kill.
Okay, Jax gets a double kill. That's a good sign. I don't know how the hell that happened, but, you know, that's how it is.
Ally slain. Shut down.
Okay, I'd just like to make a comment about item builds. It looks like you're going it looks like you're going, what's that item called? Guardian Angel second. I would absolutely not recommend Guardian Angel. In fact, actually, that's a very bad decision for the current game state. I'll explain why. Guardian Angel recently got nerfed, so it gives you much less AD than it used to, and also it has a much longer cooldown. Secondly, Guardian Angel is very good if you're ahead, because you'll just naturally have so much more gold than the enemy that you can afford to buy an item which doesn't do very much damage. However, when you're behind, you absolutely need to buy damage items. You need to do as much damage as possible to maximize your chance of getting a pick, getting a kill, and then getting back into the game. You know, if you're building defensive items already, well, you know, you're just going to die again. Like, you're not going to get full use out of this passive because you spent, you know, 3,000 gold on an item which doesn't really give you very many combat stats. So you're just going to get killed again, and then you've wasted the item. So I think you should have just gone for like a Runarn's Hurricane, or maybe like a Rapid Fire Cannon. That would be a good second item, you know, maybe even Infinity Edge. In fact, I'm not too familiar with the Kaiser builds. You know, you might have to check the Challenger leaderboards and see what they're building, but absolutely do not build defensive items second, generally. And especially if you're behind, you cannot build this item because you'll just do no damage. Nasus going for the angry split push in the top there. He's probably tired of being camped all game, so he thinks, you know what, screw this, I'm just going to play my own game. Nasus players have a habit of doing that. It's like they just want to play PvE, like World of Warcraft, going around hitting the minions. Okay, here we are, we're back. So you got your Guardian Angel. Like I said, this is really, it's not a good item purchase. When you're behind, build damage and build it quickly. But it's good that you're taking jungle camps. You need to get as much gold as possible. Okay. Okay, yeah. So like I say, you got your Guardian Angel popped for free. You managed to get an assist, but I don't think this is worth it. This whole fight was preventable. Now, the enemy team, I see this a lot with, you know, gold, platinum, even some like low emerald level players. One thing that they do is, when they take the middle inhibitor here, you know, here, and you have super minions pushing in, people just like, you know, like an old man walking through a shop, everybody just meets in the middle lane, walks around, it's like, oh, you know, here we are, we're here, we're going to push your lane a bit more, we're going to try and look for a fight. But the whole thing is extremely inefficient. You know, when you take an inhibitor, super minions spawn. Now, the super minions push very quickly into your base. There's no reason for the enemy team to be here. Similarly, you know, if you see the enemy team coming towards you, there's no reason to be stood in this position because you're not actually defending anything. You know, you should fight around objectives because, one, if you fight around a tower, you're going to add the tower to your DPS, which, you know, is a very significant DPS contribution. But secondly, you know, like, fighting here, it doesn't really achieve anything. Like, if you guys get a kill, you know, so what? You've still got to push these minions out. Like, you might as well just allow them to come into the center of your base, which they'll probably do because they have no idea what they're doing. And, you know, fight them from there. Fight them from an area at which you have some kind of advantage. If you fight them here, well, you know, you're just giving them exactly what they need, that they want. They want to kill you guys as much as possible, so it can just go mid and end the game. But you guys don't need to be here. You know, this is no point. Like I say, you should have... The ideal way to play this out would be to have somebody catching this wave in top lane, somebody be catching this wave in bot lane here, because all this is minion gold, which is being lost on the map. This is gold that your team is not seizing, and at the moment we can see that you're 10,000 gold behind, so you guys really need every bit of gold you can get. You know, if the enemy want to group 3 in mid, you know, you can just let them. Like, what they're going to do, they're going to have to all meet at the Nexus to try and push things, so which if that's the case, you guys can come back and fight. But there's no point in stunning here because, like I said, there's no objectives to fight over. There's no purpose of fighting here, you know, because if you fight the enemy right now, you're going to lose. So you need every single chance you can get, and the best chance you have is fighting around like a tower or something like that, you know. Similarly, this dragon's up in 13 seconds, but I don't think you guys can fight this right now, so you might as well just give it up. Again, fighting around objectives is obviously very important, but if you can give up an objective without being even further behind, significantly further behind, you know, then it's fine. Because if you guys fight this dragon, you lose 3 members, you basically just end the game right there. But it looks like your team's gonna concede the dragon, you know, through no choice. But they've got the Baron, so of course, The Baron's very serious. As a general macro gameplay decision, guys, even if you have Baron buff, unless you know for a fact you can end the game, just don't go through mid lane. Go to the side lanes and take these towers and try and push in 3 waves of super minions at once, because that's too overwhelming for the enemy to deal with. Okay, don't chase the Teemo. Because like I say, he's just got all of these things. Yeah. I think you're still dead here. So yeah, if you chase a Teemo, you just got to assume that he's going to have traps all over the place, because you don't have vision of this if you're mid lane anymore, you know. And also remember, Teemo has a blind, so he can just hold on to that blind for the opportune moment. He can use it on you, and then you know, you just can't auto attack back. And since Kaiser is just purely an auto attack based champion, it's very difficult for you to duel the Teemo. Okay, I would imagine. And the game's still got 4 minutes left. Amazingly. Yeah, you can see what I mean, guys. Like, if the enemy team just wants to push into the middle lane here, even though they've got Baron super minions, it's like, it's too risky, you know? It's like they just lost a double kill for no reason. Like, you know, the higher elo you get and the better the players get, the more they'll punish these kind of mistakes. Like, just go to the side lane. Just go to the side lane, take the towers, and, you know, just like pull the rug out from under the enemy. Just give them absolutely no opportunity to come back in the game. Like, there's nobody going to be defending these towers because you've already got a super lane pushing in the mid lane. So Baron's up. We need somebody to ward that. If somebody gets a Baron steal, it's possible that you can still come back in this game. Amu's in mid lane, so you can infer that they're not doing Baron right now. You know, getting red buff is good. Just obviously look at mid lane as well. You have a... Okay. It's very important to get Baron vision because that's a potential way to get back in the game if your jungler goes for a steal. So you had a trinket ward here. You have your yellow ward. You know, as you're walking over here and doing the red buff, just drop a ward in Baron. So then at least you know when the enemy's doing it. You know, there's any way you can steal a Baron. Baron steals happen all the time in this game. You know, people missing smite, people getting overconfident. You know, you could just throw out an ability too. Your jungler could see this. You know, he could flash in, try and steal a Baron, and if he does get it, you know, you have a very significantly increased chance of either winning the game or actually just stalling out the game to the point where you can actually get items and carry in the late game. So for the sake of you walking over there to put a ward out, I would say it's worth it, because if they get the Baron, chances are they're just going to win. So yeah, just make sure to pick up farm in the mid lane. You really need farm on Kai'Sa. You need every single bit of farm you can get. Okay, looks like Teemo must have got bored. Wants the game to end as quickly as possible. You know, wants to go and see his girlfriend, get some food. This feels like running. What the... Okay, Akali just trolling it a little bit. Yeah, you don't need to chase this kill. Like, especially don't tower dive for it. You know, kills aren't that important because you're not fighting over an objective. So even if you get this kill, like you do, you know, like you could have died there, and then, you know, this it just massively increases the chance that the game's going to end. The fact that you get a kill, you know, it's fine, but it's very risky. Objectives before kills, guys. It really is very important. I would imagine that these guys are just going to go and get Baron now. Like I said, if there was a ward earlier, we could have found this, you know, maybe Nasus comes in and goes for a steal. But I can almost guarantee within the next 5 to 10 seconds, that Baron thing is going to flash up. Please ward Baron. Please ward Baron. Oh my god, they're not getting Baron. Well, how about that? See, that's another example, right? If we knew that they weren't getting Baron, the critical thing to note here is that Teemo just appeared on the top lane. So Teemo's top, they have no smite. Yes, your jungler is here. But if you move 4 people into Baron here, you put yourself into an opportunity where you might be able to sneak a Baron depending on if anybody else shows in the map. So if you guys like try and gain river priority, you can place some wards in the jungle. Maybe you're able to make a pick. Maybe Ari is doing blue buff over here. You know, you stand a greater chance of winning the game with just placing some wards. Like, look at this, right? We've got 3 guys here. All their wards are off cooldown, which means they have wards available to place. So we've got Nasus, yourself, Akali. You should place these wards. You need to look for any opportunity you can get. Any way you can find a champion who's been a bit greedy, staying in lane too long, recalling at a bad time, or just, jungle farming when they shouldn't be. Because for all we know, they could have 2 members up here somewhere, going to chase this guy. So if they send 3 people for this one Jax, you can just ping Baron, like Baron, 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 Baron. Ping everybody there. So if everybody comes down to Baron, you don't necessarily have to take it. You could just, get a pick on Teemo. Maybe you get a pick on 2 people. And then if that's the case, yes, you can get Baron. All these things put confusion in the enemy team. And, yeah, when people are confused, they don't know where to go. They don't know whether to follow the Amumu and chase the Jax. They don't know whether to go and get Baron. And then all this can really bring you guys back into the game. Throws happen all the time. Even in Diamond, throws happen all the time. Trust me. You just got to find these very finite windows of where you can come back into the game. Any kind of way you can look for a pick. But let's see what happens. Okay, no need to attack the Baron here by yourselves. You'll take a lot of damage. Oh! Okay, well that flash was completely pointless. Sorry, mate. Yeah, you see our Guardian Angel here. You spent 3,000 gold on this Guardian Angel. And you just forced the usage of it by flashing it in the enemy team. So, this item has done absolutely nothing. In fact, actually, this item has benefited the enemy team. In some ways, it's almost taken 3,000 gold from your pocket and just thrown it out the window. So you basically have 2 items right now. Because in all situations where Guardian Angel would have been useful, it hasn't been useful because you just died again. So, another way of thinking about this is, if I take off 3,000 gold off my total now, how much do I have? So yes, you have 11,000. MF has 14,000, but in reality, it's like you have 8,000. If this was a damage item, maybe you get a kill there. Maybe you get a kill earlier. Just something to think about. Like, you may be going into the game with your default loadout and just picking those items every game, regardless of matchup. But you always need to ask yourself in every game, with itemization, am I itemizing in the most optimal way? Now that can mean, several different things. It could mean, firstly, it can mean the examples that I've just shown you. There's no point buying defensive items when you're behind, as an AD carry. The second could be, is there a very strong burst damage or magic damage champion on the enemy team? So, for example, like in this case, right? The enemy team has Amumu, Teemo, and Ari, 3 magic damage champions. Like, this Guardian Angel here could be a Hex Drinker. It's a lot cheaper. It's more efficient. It gives you, honestly, almost as much AD. It gives you magic resist, which is what you need against these 3. Hex Drinker would be a good item here. Or let's say they have a Zed. Okay, if they have a Zed, you can buy a Stopwatch. You can also buy a Guardian Angel, but Stopwatch is a lot cheaper. Stopwatch will stop the Zed ultimate. Similarly, if they have lots of big tanks or lots of healing, then you can buy the Grievous Wounds item. I think it's called Mortal Reminder. So your itemization should be appropriate to the game at hand. Like, yes, in some champions you'll have core builds. Like, for example, in Orianna, most people go with the tier item and then the Leandries. And then after, they can just go with whatever they want, but generally those are the core items. So for you, every game you might want to go Blade of the Rune King, Runarn's Hurricane, and then you can just choose whatever other items depending on the game state. If you just go Guardian Angel every game, like I said, it's not very efficient, it's not optimal. Like, just look at this game, right? Your Guardian Angel, in my opinion, has done very, very little. Like I said, it's just taking 3,000 gold out of your pocket. So just think to yourself, am I buying the best items for, what's relevant to the game state right now? It's very important to think about these things. But trust me, even people, Platinum, Emerald, etc., you see some very bad itemization. Like, Malphite players going full armor against triple AP, people not buying healing reduction against Mundo, all of these things, it happens. But you can make the difference in, how you itemize to, this honestly could even be the reason that stops you from climbing to higher tiers in some cases, because, it's just like your champion will just do less damage. Your champion will be less useful. You'll die faster depending on, if you don't buy the right items here and there. But this is up for you. Just think about every situation. Just ask yourself, am I buying the most appropriate item for the task at hand? Oh, another tip. When you're against a Teemo, you can buy the red trinket, because the red trinket discovers all of his mushrooms within a certain radius, so it's very useful when you're going around dragon fights or any kind of objective fight, because if your team gets hit by 2 or 3 Teemo mushrooms, then the chance of winning that fight goes down significantly. So let's see how the game closes out. Kali trying her best. What can you do? Nasus got blinded, so he missed the Q. Unlucky. This is the downside of Nasus, guys. He just gets auto-attacked, kited, CC'd, and then he can't really do anything. It's quite irritating when that happens. Okay. So this is the end of the game. Well, okay. I mean, for you, for the most kind of significant advice I can give to you is, there's quite a lot of mechanical mistakes in the early laning phase. So if we go back here, remember I said, like, you need to act with intention when you're laning phase. You have to have an idea of what it is you want to do. So when you're against, once you have 2 ranged champions, yourself and Kai'Sa, against a melee and a ranged champion, so like Blitzcrank and MF, you guys have priority. You guys can push faster than they can because you have more, minion killing abilities. And as a result, you can get priority in the lane. You can push the lane early. That stops them from trading back with you. Then you can ward. You can look out for the jungler. You can maybe even take the Scuttle Crab. And you can also just harass them under tower because Seraphine does a lot of damage and Seraphine has a lot of range. So you need to be able to make sure you can maximize your chances of impacting a matchup. And when you have 2 ranged champions, your laning phase is a lot easier because you can just harass, push, these kind of things. But you guys got pushed in the early laning phase, I remember. Like, you took a few bad Qs here. You took a few, attacks from Misfortune, and it forced you to go back early. Like, just where you're standing here, right? It's obvious that you're going to be hit by a Misfortune double up. So just where you should be standing is around about here. Well, maybe not there because Blitzcrank can come in. Maybe just like here. Okay, so even if Blitzcrank hooks, you can duke out the hook, but he's probably not going to be able to do too much damage if he hooks you at level 1. But you just need to be aware of where Misfortune's standing, and if she uses her first ability, is there a chance that it can hit you? So, avoid skill shots so that you don't take as much damage in the early laning phase. Misfortune's a very powerful laner, so you just need to make sure you don't get hit by those abilities, and then, back and lose lots of HP like you did. And of course, standing right here is very dangerous. You got to be very careful with that Blitzcrank hook. So there's just a few mechanical mistakes in the early game, which of course, translate to just a loss of gold and an increase of gold in the enemy, a loss of pressure, a loss of experience, this kind of thing. Like I say, if you guys were pushing right now, it'd be MF who's the one who's on low HP, because a Seraphine would just be damaging her, and you'd also be able to get a few ability ones in wherever possible. But yeah, so the main advice I'll give you is try to improve your laning phase. Don't get hit by as many skill shots. Just try and understand matchup mechanics. Double range is always a lot stronger than a range and a melee, especially when you're against a kind of a weak early game jungler like a Mumu who really needs level 5 to do lots of damage. Second to this, your main job as an AD carry: farm, die less. Farm more, die less. That's your mantra. Repeat, repeat, repeat. You cannot die as an AD carry because your entire purpose is damage. So if you're not doing damage, you're doing nothing. You have no CC, you have no healing, you have no utility abilities. So if you, in any situation, are dead, you cannot deal any damage, and your team misses out on a hell of a lot of damage. So you cannot die. That should be your thing. Your game plan should just be, am I farming? If I'm not farming, can I get pressure on the map? Can I find a way to farm? Can I get as much experience? Can I harass the enemy? Can I take towers? and always prioritize your safety. It's very important as an AD carry. Like I said, your team needs you to do damage, and your team needs you to stay relevant in the game. Like if you watch a lot of high elo kind of challenger level AD carry players, you'll notice that they tend not to make too many aggressive trades unless of course the matchup dictates it. But one thing they almost never do is it's very rare that they'll get significantly far behind, and even if they do, they always make sure they farm a lot so they have a lot of gold and they can still do a lot of a lot of relevant damage in the mid late game. So that'd be the main kind of advice I'll give to you. There's other things in the mid game, but I've already covered those in the VOD. Just macro decisions, team-wide decisions, pinging your team away, placing wards and that kind of thing. But if there's anything else you'll need to ask, just feel free to send me a message on Reddit or YouTube or something. And I'll try and give a bit more context because there's only so much you can really cover in a single video. So, yeah. Well, thanks for the video, man. I appreciate that. And good luck. Bye.